Hey friends, I just had the most fantastic conversation with Tia, and here is what you're going to be learning today. A unbelievably powerful three-step collaborative problem-solving system that you will be able to use with your loved ones. It's definitely given me so much to think about. I cannot wait to start implementing this in our house. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm excited for you all to meet Tia here today. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Work Life Harmony. I have been looking forward to meeting our guest here today, especially because Tia is a certified chief happiness officer. And I cannot wait to dive into understanding what that means. And then, more importantly, how do we apply this to actual problem solving at home with the people that we live with and love? So, welcome to the show, Tia. I would love for you to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of backstory about how you got into this line of work.
Oh, well, I'm so happy to be here. My background before this line of work was in the luxury hospitality industry. I was a director of sales and marketing for 14 years for hotels and resorts, different places in the United States as well as in Europe, and had a really fun, awesome career. Once I became a mom, and especially after I had my second daughter, I realized that I wanted to have more autonomy and flexibility over my life, which obviously this is the perfect podcast. And I also was really struggling with my own happiness and my well being, trying to juggle a corporate career, leading a team, and having a toddler and a baby, in living in Los Angeles.
Oh, easy peasy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
And I felt just really overwhelmed, full of anxiety, mom guilt, shame, resentment, like stress, so much stress, etc. I discovered at this time that there is a science of happiness. I was working with a coach that I hired, and pre-kids, I always was a very positive, optimistic person. Working mom, threw me for a loop. And so I was like, wait, what is this? The science of happiness, also known as positive psychology. And I became obsessed with it for myself because I was like, I need this. Like, what is this? I went to the World Happiness Summit. I started studying with the man that taught at Harvard University, devouring books, TED Talks, everything. And I started applying what I was learning to my life and was seeing incredible results. And then thought, oh my gosh, like the whole world needs to know about this research. It's taught at Harvard and Yale and Oxford, but it's not really well known. And so I created my company called Arrive at Happy and started coaching people one-on-one, and then started speaking, doing keynote talks and leadership training. And the certified chief happiness officer I got when I went over to Denmark, because the Scandinavians are significantly ahead of us in terms of happiness and
Yes.
happiness at work. So I was like, I got to learn from the Danes. Like, we don't,
So is this a certification program they have created there?
yes.
Okay. I love that.
Yes. So I went over there, people from 24 different countries, really understanding the science of happiness at work, because I had done so much positive psychology in your personal life. And so that's what that certification was. And then I wrote a book called Be a Happy Leader. I have a viral TED Talk called The Simple Secret of Being Happier. And, organizations brought me in to teach leaders and teams how to be happier so that their customers are happier and organization will grow. And then a year ago, I created a membership for high achieving moms called the Feel Good Club, where I inspire, teach, and connect ambitious working moms. So, yeah. And I have
Such
two
amazing
kids,
work.
9 and 11.
Yeah, which means you're still in the trenches of all of this.
Yeah.
Hearing you just talk about where you landed when you had your second baby, I mean, I think so at least all the women I know that I have met can relate to that. They see themselves in that story in some way, shape, or form. I remember even walking into my closet in the morning and looking at the clothes and feeling like I didn't even know how to dress anymore. It's like, well,
Yes.
but I've got meetings, but then we're going to the park, and I didn't feel like anything even in my closet represented who I was
Yes.
anymore and how to show up. And then a common thread that I think so many women feel is they finally got to where they thought they had had the thing that they'd wanted for so long, the job, the house, the family,
Yeah.
and then they're there, and they're like, "But I'm not feeling very fulfilled or happy or joy-filled, so now I'm just gonna feel guilty about that because there must be something wrong with me." Do you
Yes.
Is there a commonality between that you have seen on why we arrive in this place, why this is the same story for so many women?
So there's, of course, there's research and then my own experience. I know for me, and I'd love to hear, a few of this experience, but for me, going back to work when my kids were so young, in hindsight, I mean, it felt really hard in the moment. In hindsight, I actually know that it was very, very traumatic for me. I went back to this big corporate job when my kids were 3 months, 4 months, and the guilt and like just insecurity, feeling inadequate, like I think it just like that was like the birth of it. And then, staying late for client events or whatever. It was just like, what other evidence do I have, that it's not good enough?
Mhm.
I know because I'm half Canadian and then also my connection to, what happens in Scandinavia as well is that systematically our culture doesn't support working families
Yeah.
as well, whether it be, childcare, and there's obviously so much conversation about this right now, having flexibility, having autonomy, and really trusting parents that it's like, we understand you're going to get your work done and it doesn't have to look like this since
Yes.
the 1920s, it does, et cetera. And then a lot of us, of course, don't have communities and villages, grandmothers that are down the street that can help and that sort of thing. And then, of course, what affects our mental health a lot too is the comparison that happens on social media. There's a lot of research that decreases human happiness, and of course, it applies to working moms and working parents as well. And then also, the research shows that just how time poor and really time famished
Yes.
working parents with kids are. The research shows that we need like 2 hours a day to have discretionary time, right? And what working parents has that? So whether you have that to exercise or read, or maybe it's playing with your kids and being present, you're not like also checking email. We don't have the time. And then, we don't take time to take care of ourselves. There's
Yeah.
lots of different reasons, but I think knowing that it's not their fault. There's also, systemic cultural issues that make it harder for us than in other parts of the world.
Oh, so many there it's like every time I feel like, "Oh, we're making progress," it's like, "Oh, but we have such a long way to go at the
Both
same
are true.
time."
We've made
Yeah,
progress, but yeah.
yeah. So, knowing that everybody is overbooked, everybody's overscheduled, we are all trying to carve out these moments for happiness in our lives. I can imagine, I know certainly in my own home for sure, it creates a unique set of problems at home, right? I've even seen some social media posts out there. They're like, so how is this possible if school pickups at 3, but daycare pickups at not available till 4, like you do all the math. It's like you feel like every week is trying to solve a logistical nightmare, which then can create arguments, tension, resentment, all of that in the household. So, one of the things I know that you are an expert in is this concept of collaborative problem solving, either with your significant other, with your children at home. What does that look like? How do people get started? And what kind of problems even are we talking about here that we can address?
There are two Harvard doctors that created collaborative problem solving. How I discovered it is our older daughter has a rare profile of autism and she also has ADHD.
Oh.
So, oh, okay. So she has a lot of challenges, a lot of challenging behaviors. And any type of traditional parenting methods, the way my husband and I were parented, did not work and in fact made things worse. So, carrots, consequences, rewards, anything.
Nothing
It was
worked. Yep,
it made it a
of
million times
course.
worse, and we were so confused and lost and dumbfounded, and our daughter has, because of her nervous system disability, has a really, really challenging behaviors, screaming, panic attacks, she'll become aggressive, like very, very difficult. And collaborative problem solving, and I forget the first person told me about it, maybe, my first autistic parenting coach, basically is this three-step process. In order to have the process, you go, okay, where is there an unsolved problem? Whether it's with your spouse or with your kid. And in my life, there isn't too much of a difference in terms of how I apply it, or my husband does as well. So we say, okay, for example, little one, my younger one who's 9, consistently is like yelling and stressed out, getting ready for school. So right there, you're like, okay, unsolved problem. Like they're screaming, there's stress. So the unsolved problem might be getting dressed. The problem, like the behavior is screaming or the behavior is yelling or whatever. The problem, there's some kind of problem with getting dressed. So what you do is, when you're not in the heat of the moment. So let's say after school, like on the way to dance class and kids chill and you're chill, the first step is empathy. So you say, hey, I noticed that getting dressed is difficult. What's up? Right? You're not talking about the screaming. You're not having the feels. You're talking about this unsolved problem.
Well, no,
And
you're not saying it's about them. You're saying this
there's a
thing
problem.
of getting dressed. It's not a you problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
And so then you basically practice empathy, really good listening. And they're going to say, well, my socks are this. Oh, tell me about that. Hey, you're not in trouble. Like you're reassuring, you're asking good questions. You're practicing a lot of empathy and you're trying to understand what it's like being them. Now, this could be your spouse or your kid or someone at work. There's a difficulty. What's their experience? And you're trying to gather, and you're trying to learn something new. Step 2 is you share your concern in a really succinct way. So you might say something like, using this example, well, I'm worried that if we don't solve this problem together, we're going to keep being late for school and it's going to be stressful. You share your concern. Again, you're not talking about behavior. And then you say, what ideas do you have? There's the collaboration. I heard you. Here's my concern. Let's solve this together. What's really hard for people is to not solve it yourself, to
Especially
not
as
just jump in and be
parent.
like, oh, well, we can just do this with your socks, but to
Yeah.
actually let your spouse or your kid come up with ideas. You can come up with ideas too. So that's really hard. We're so used to we're adults, we have answers, we know, we're wives, we know how to solve our husband's problems. But it's like, no. And then also what's very different and it's very opposite of traditional parenting is the solution, what you're going to try. It's not all the parent's way. The
Right.
kid gives a little and the parent gives a little. So, this might look like, in this case, like I'm just going to make something up. Let's say the kid in this soccer morning is like, well, I should be able to watch my iPad when I'm getting dressed. And the parent's like, oh God, like that's no. But it's like, okay, like that actually isn't my way, but you have to give a little. And you're teaching your
Right.
kid to give a little, or your spouse. And so there are two organizations, Lives in the Balance and Think Kids are two, collaborative problem solving organizations. But I've taken multiple classes and advanced class on this, and it has transformed our family for the better.
Mm.
It has been for my marriage and parenting. And what's great is that it's based on neuroscience and it builds new neural pathways. The kids build skills you're building skills, and it is also relational. It brings you closer together because you are
Absolutely.
collaborating versus incentivizing, rewarding, bribing, or punishing. And also the other thing that's hard is it takes a lot of patience.
Yeah.
It
So,
takes
how do
time.
you balance that feeling of giving in with letting go, if that makes sense. So back to the iPad example, maybe you're someone that's like, oh, heck no. I know if
Yeah.
I say yes, it's going to be 20 minutes and the socks won't be on. What advice do you have on working through that collaborative problem solving where you're not maybe put in the position to have to say no to all of their suggestions, making them feel like you're not really listening to begin with?
Yeah. And that's like, it took a long, like, because I was like, it's not working. And then I had this epiphany of like, oh, I'm not giving at all. I'm doing collaborative problem solving, but I still want it my way.
I'm trying to
I'm
guide
listening,
them to what I want
I'm
collaboratively.
listening, but I'm sharing my concern, but I'm like, no, this is how, I'm right. I'm the mom, or I'm right. I'm the wife. I know.
Yeah.
So number one is that trusting that the process builds skills and the
Mm,
process has the relationship stronger. And the connection to happiness and well being is the number one predictor of happiness and well being is connected relationships, human connection. That's the number one predictor of happiness across the globe. Think of any relationship in your life. Understanding that by being open and trusting that if it's not all your way, if you let go a little, that you're going to have a more connected relationship, and also that nothing is set in stone, right? So in this example, if they say, well, if you let me watch my iPad for 15 minutes while I'm getting dressed and the iPad goes off at 7:30, you say, okay, interesting. Like let's try it for a week and we'll circle back. It's not like you're like, all right, for the next 20 years, this is the plan. So it's knowing that it's a process and knowing that you can always, come and talk again. And that we as parents, or maybe in marriage, or maybe as a leader, we want people to do what we want them to do, right? There's like a
yeah.
control
Of
issue
course.
that we
Yes.
all have,
Still a
especially
trying to recover control freak over here.
totally, totally. And especially if you're high achieving, you're like, no, I know what to do. I definitely have the best ideas. Like, so it's also knowing that we want our kids or our spouse or our team members to be flexible, to be more open minded, to not feel like, and so by doing it, we're modeling like, hey, it's not all my way. And
Mhm.
and I trust that you might have some good ideas. And I'm open to like trying your idea. And I'll tell you that the challenging behaviors go down, the trust and connection goes up, fighting goes down. And my kids now are so familiar with it. They know, like when we say CPS, they know, oh, it's collaborative problem solving. That they know
Interesting.
that that's our family works on collaboration. We listen, we share other, and then we solve things together. And the feeling of now they're still fighting, of course. I don't have a perfect feeling, but this
You are
feeling
human,
of
I would hope,
harmony.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is, especially with having such a challenging child, my confidence in we're going to be able to figure things out. Like, and there's going to be more problems. I have this tool, this process, this proven process based on neuroscience that we can figure things out.
Can even imagine it releases that overbearing sense of responsibility to figure it all out as the parent, even as you were, using the morning thing. I was remembering several years ago of just butting heads with the morning routine because to me there just was an obvious order to do the things in the morning that was the
Right.
most efficient, that probably
Pretty much.
anybody would agree was the most efficient way to just do the things to get out the door on time. I was right, of course, but no, I was not. And it finally landed in, a sit down of like, okay, at the end of the day, here are the 5, or I forget how many, here are the X number of things that have to be done, and we have to be walking to the garage by this time with
Right.
those things done. You figure out and you decide the order that works best for you.
Mhm.
And it was completely backwards from anything I would have done. On paper, it looked like the most inefficient whatever, but it was like overnight, everything changed in our house in the morning because now the order of the activities was completely different, but it was what worked for her.
Mhm.
all the things were getting done and we were getting out the door on time. And so just the lightness that that gives, but then also the freedom as the parent to not feel like you're spending all your time trying to shove a square peg into a hole that was never
Right.
going to fit. And we even bring that up, in conversation sometimes. My daughter will share if she feels I'm pushing down one way too much. She's like, "Hey, it's been how many years and we're getting out the door on time in the morning? Like, let me I got it." I'll be like,
Right.
"Okay, you're right." Now, did we follow those three-step things exactly like you said? No, but looking back, we could have arrived there so much quicker if we had. I am confident of that. And so I love that you gave if you could say it one more time for everybody who's listening, what that three-step process is, because I think when we have a system instead of, trying to feel it out, we would have gotten there so much quicker.
Right. So the first is you understand what are the unsolved problems. And a lot of times as parents, we look at like the behavior, like, oh, they're talking back. Oh, they're swearing. Oh, they're late for school. Oh, my husband doesn't pack the lunches properly, whatever. And it's then separating. So first step is separate the behavior from the
From
unsolved
the
problem.
problem.
So, and also I will say, you can't successfully work on 15 problems at once. It's
Fair.
thinking like, what are the two we're going to work on right now? Because it might take several conversations. It might take 9 conversations to come up with a plan if it's a really big unsolved problem. So that's figuring out, okay, what's the unsolved problem? And then the 3 steps are empathy. So asking, what's up and not talking about the behavior. You're just talking about the problem, listening, asking questions, reassuring, really, really showing empathy, not drive by fake empathy because you want to try and get at the thing. And 80% of the conversation is that. Step 2 is sharing your concern in a very succinct way. And then step 3 is collaboration and really having the other person, your spouse or kid or coworker or mother-in-law, whatever, go first of like, what ideas do you have? Not all your way, not all my way. So empathy, your concern, collaboration.
Curious, I'm just gonna throw this out there because I have to know if you've thought about this at all. Have you seen any correlation with Gen Xers in particular having a really hard time with that empathy part?
I have not, but I'm not an expert on it. So I don't think
Okay.
I could.
'Cause I feel like I look at my husband and myself, hardcore Gen Xers, and, like, that goes counterintuitive to every which way we were raised of the empathy, we're the
Yes.
rub some dirt on it,
Oh,
like, get up and move on, and, like, don't wall it's like give it this thought of you're giving in if you sit in the empathy. And so I think that that will be an interesting rewiring likely for a
oh,
lot of people of recognizing that's not complaining, that's not being ungrateful, it's serving a purpose to sit in that space. And the fact you said that's 80% of the conversation, I think that that might by itself be one of the most challenging parts of this for a lot of people.
to be quiet and listen and I will say, so I naturally am a very empathetic person. I'm a highly sensitive person. My husband is not. On personality assessments, empathy is really, really low. It's not natural for him. It's like clunky and it feels weird and it comes across as insincere and it's not any fault of his. That's just not,
Right.
he has amazing strengths. He's like, I could go on and on. He's incredible. Learning how to sit with a human, your wife or kid, and to really try to understand what it's like being them is super unnatural and really, really difficult for him because he sees the behavior, he sees the challenges. He's also a problem solver. He's like, we can fix this. Like, I got the,
Yep.
why are we even talking about that? Like, well, I know how to fix this. Like, he just gives solutions. And it feels for as an adult, especially like both my parents were very loving, but very authoritative. It was like my way, or the highway. You do this.
And that was
And
pretty much standard. These are the rules and do them
totally.
or don't be here.
Yeah. Like I don't think my dad ever sat and was like, what's it like being
That
you?
make you
No,
feel.
no, no. Yet with practice and with time, you get better and better at it, just like anything. That's the relational piece. So if you want to have a good relationship with your children when they're in their 30s, and how are they going to talk about you to their friends, right? If you want to stay married for 40 years, if you want to have a good relationship with your siblings, or if you think about all different, I say like empathy is the foundation for true connection. And it's hard because we all see life through our own lens
Right.
based on our
Right.
experiences, our DNA, our family history, but it also increases feelings of compassion, compassion for others, and then you also increase compassion for yourself.
Oh, so good. I can't wait to start using this at home. I've already like my mind is going of certain problems, if you will, that are like, "Ooh, I see this being a really beneficial path to kind of follow down." For everyone listening, where is the best place that they can learn more about your work, get connected with you, etc.?
Yes. So the best place is my website, tiagraham.com. And I'm also really active on Instagram, Tia E. Graham, and then also on LinkedIn. Those are the two main places. And then I wanted to share also that I have a overcoming mom guilt toolkit. And this is at pages.thefeelgoodclub.com/guilt toolkit. I know that's a bit long as I'm saying out
Yeah,
loud.
we'll
I'm going
have
to
the
shorten
links in
it.
the show notes. So definitely
Yeah.
go
Okay.
check those
Perfect.
out.
I'll try it out.
Yep.
But yeah, I put together a toolkit for any mom that's feeling work guilt or mom guilt.
Oh, no. I'm sure nobody can relate to that. Oh, I cannot thank you enough for being here today and sharing this, Tia. I'm sure all of our listeners are already thinking about ways that they're going to go work on this collaborative problem solving. I see it being a really big game changer. Thank you so much.